People ask us all the time, what's the difference between stainless steel and nitrided steel handpans? Honestly, it's not just about sound. Both materials are used to make handpans, and on the surface, they can seem pretty similar. But once you start playing them, or building them, you realize they behave completely differently. I'm Jess with Isthmus Instruments. Let's dive in. Nitrided steel is a low-carbon steel that's been heat-treated through a process called nitriding. That process changes how the material behaves, making it more rust-resistant, creating a more controlled, grounded sound with natural separation in between the notes. Over the years, we've spent a lot of time working with both materials, but especially nitrided steel. We've tested different raw materials, explored different heat-treating processes, and even collaborated with labs to better understand what's actually happening in the material. This is nitrided. Notice how each note has its own room to breathe. And just to put it into perspective, here's a timer so you can actually see how long these notes ring out. So even though nitrided is more controlled, there's still a really meaningful amount of sustain there. So how does it feel to play a nitrided handpan? With nitrided, you're not filling space as much, you're shaping it. There's clarity of sound that naturally pulls you towards rhythm, groove, and more percussive playing. But it's not always about playing faster. That separation between the notes actually encourages you to listen differently. You start to hear what's happening in between the sounds, and that can inspire a completely different type of melody or groove. One place this really shows up is when you're playing with other instruments. We've had our instruments used in ensemble settings, from layered handpan recordings to orchestras and choir performances. That works because of the definition and control in nitrided steel. There's enough space between the notes that everything stays clear and defined, even with multiple players.
Nitrided steel is very difficult to work with. Most makers have given it up because there are so many things that you have to get right. Surface finish, heat treatment, raw material, it all matters for the sound.
Creating a nitrided shell from scratch that's destined to be a great musical instrument is an incredibly difficult process to do well. A lot of makers either can't or won't go through the effort. We've had batches that just didn't make the cut. While most makers purchase already formed stainless shells, we continue to manufacture our own nitrided shells. For us, it's become a specialty. At Isthmus, we've spent years refining our canvas, from forming to material selection, heat treatment to surface finish, all in pursuit of something very specific.
Most people do expect a short sound with nitrided steel, but we've worked the last 15 years to make the material the most resonant possible.
This is how we're able to reach up to 4 seconds of sustain in some cases, while still maintaining clean articulation and a beautiful finish. Another big difference shows up in stability. During handpan tuning, we're applying a lot of force to shape each note. With nitrided steel, that structure tends to hold really well over time. Our shells are made from 1.2mm steel, and that thickness plays a big role in long-term stability, combined with how we tune and how we've refined our process. We've had instruments out in the world for over 10 years with very minimal need for service. They also tend to settle in over time, almost like a fine wine. They lock in as they're played, which is something we've consistently seen. When you're working with nitrided steel, it almost feels sculptural. You're pushing and shaping the material. It's more like working with clay. And that really shows up in both the build process and the final sound. And this is where quality really matters. Not all nitrided instruments behave the same way. This is a more basic nitrided instrument. You can hear how the sustain drops off more quickly and the tone feels a little bit tighter. And this is ours, where we've really focused on material, process, and finishing. With nitrided steel, the tuner has to stay very involved. You're constantly working on shaping the material to bring out its full potential. That's nitrided steel, controlled, sculpted, and built for definition and balance. Now, stainless steel takes a very different approach. Stainless steel is a more resonant, elastic material. Because of that, it responds very differently when you're playing it. It naturally wants to ring and sustain. It's also inherently rust resistant, which makes it a low maintenance material to own and care for. This is stainless.
You can hear how the notes start to blend and build together. With stainless, it becomes less about separation and more about flow.
You can let notes ring into each other and build immersive, layered soundscapes. It encourages you to slow down and listen to how everything connects. Stainless also has a brighter timbre than nitrided. Where nitrided feels more ceramic and mellow, stainless opens up and projects more freely. One thing you'll notice, because of that long sustain, stainless can fill a room very quickly. In some environments, especially with multiple instruments, that sound can start to overlap. In the right setting, it blends beautifully. But it's something to be aware of, especially if you're playing with others. Structurally, stainless behaves very differently. Where nitrided steel feels more solid and grounded, stainless is much more elastic. It responds more like a trampoline. You press into it and it pushes back. That elasticity is part of what allows the sound to ring and carry so freely. But it also makes stainless a bit more sensitive in terms of stability. That's stainless steel. Resonant, expressive, and beautifully suited for the right player and setting. Now, let's bring both materials together. Is longer sustain always better? It's easy to assume that it is, and stainless makes a strong case for that. But sustain isn't the whole story. With nitrided steel, there's a natural separation between the notes. That subtly changes how you engage with the instrument. It asks you to listen more closely, to breathe between phrases, and to play with more intention. For a lot of players, that sense of space creates a deeper connection to the music. Meditation and expression don't only come from continuous sound. Sometimes they come from the quiet in between. This is nitrided, more definition and more control. And this is stainless, more resonance and more flow. Same player, different feel. At the end of the day, neither material is better. They just connect with different players in different ways. Some are drawn to long, immersive resonance. Others connect more with rhythm, articulation, and space. If you're looking for an instrument that plays beautifully with others and holds its own across musical settings, nitrided steel is where we'd point you. And if ambient, contemplative sound is what calls to you, stainless is a beautiful choice. If you're curious about either of these, we'd love to have you visit us here in Madison, Wisconsin, so you can experience both in person. Choosing the right instrument is deeply personal. There's really no substitute for getting one in your hands. We've had people walk in convinced they wanted one material and leave with the other. Thanks for watching. Make sure to check out our blog to learn more about handpan material, choosing your scale, and more.